what we're talking about today in terms of interviewing, this is a clear example of the power of like questions. When you start asking somebody questions, everything starts to unravel. And people are forced to look within themselves and answer these questions and think, And you get to learn so much about people. Networking sometimes is one of the most, for some people it's daunting, for some people it's just annoying, but if you go into a networking situation purely asking questions about the person, not what they do, not what their hands do, but the person, you will leave a far greater impact on them as opposed to someone who's like, oh, your business does this? Oh, we should connect. And when you start talking to someone about their kids, what it is like to be a father, what it might be like to be a mother, touches. Cool. So, what is the problem? Why are we doing this masterclass? Well, the problem is mics are cheap. All right, podcast mics are cheap. So the barrier of entry is low, meaning anyone can start up a conversation, put it on a platform, and away they go. But have you studied the art of having a conversation? Have you studied the art of what it is to bring out information that can be of value to your audience? There's too much information gatekeeping. People know so much, but few people are sharing it. And so people die with so much knowledge, so much, whether it's a brand, whether it's an individual. And so we need people to be sharing that. Why? So that you can learn and do better. Lastly, there's sometimes no one place to learn it all. That's why we are here. What school is doing, courses on how to interview, how to be a presenter? And so sometimes if we can't see it, we have to create it. That's why we did this, because we didn't see it, so we have to create it. Okay, so that is the problem. And hopefully through this masterclass, we try and solve a little bit of it. So let's start with the first place, okay? Your hook. Your hook, okay? Let's learn how to lay the foundations for a great interview. How? One of the first things is finding your hook. Everyone says it, find your hook. Find your hook. Finding your hook is all about finding out what matters most to you in their story, okay? This can be a brand, this can be a company, this can be an individual. But figure out what is it that connects you, what is it that pulls you, what is it that has you hooked in that story? Because if you are not hooked, you cannot hook your audience. And this is hard sometimes, like Joy, she does a lot of press junkets and you've got to interview people about movies, etc. And so it might be hard when you're faced with, okay, these are the people you have to interview and that's it. But wherever you have autonomy, wherever you have a choice, find out what is the hook, what is it that is pulling you? Because this hook, everyone say find your hook. This hook is going to carve out the structure for your whole interview. This hook is going to determine what type of questions you ask, how deep you go into a particular theme, how do you ask that question or not ask that question? What is the speed and the flow of your interview? Where do you, leave your audience at the end? The hook, what is it that is connecting you to their story, right? There was a case study that was done in the University of Arizona. It was a professor, Mateus Mill, and he wanted to weigh up what was more important. Was it small talk or was it in-depth talk? So in terms of conversation, was it small talk or in-depth talk? And what he found was that, yes, small talk would have its place 100%. Nobody goes into a networking situation, is like, hi, how are you? Tell me about your childhood trauma. What makes you cry at night? No, there's small talk has its place, but he found that in-depth talk had a greater return of investment. Participants who had more substantive conversations with others reported a greater degree of happiness overall. The strength of your hook, or the more hooks you can find is your investment. The more hooks you have, the more invested you are in having this conversation. Because I want to find out this, I want to find out this, I want to find out this. In return, the person who you're interviewing feels like there's value. Right, this person actually cares. They've done their research. They actually want to know about what I'm doing, and therefore the answers that they give you are of value. And then we pass that value to the audience, okay? So your hook, find your hook. All right. The second element of that is decide on what you want to give to your audience. So you've found your hook, and this can be somebody's upbringing, it could be their success story, it can be their controversy, it can be their downfall, whatever it might be. But the second part of it is understanding, how does this hook give value to the audience? It's all good you having your hooks. It's all good you having your, I want to talk about this, but how is that giving value to your audience? Because if it's not giving value to your audience, you're having a conversation with who? Yourself, okay? So it's two parts. Find your, that's right, find your hook, okay? Here's some examples. I'll give you some examples of what we did over the years. So these are people that we interviewed. I interviewed. So Mo Gilligan, my hook for him was, he was very successful. He was just blowing up. It was just going amazing. But my hook was, I wanted to know, how is he dealing with this fame? Because what I wanted to give to the audience was an understanding that this thing ain't easy. Even though his trajectory is going so high, there must be things that he's going through behind the scenes that he can't talk about. Let's create a scenario. Let's create an environment where he can tell us about what he's dealing with. And what he talked about was his anxiety. How he had gone from being just him on his own to now going out, and this person wants to talk to him. This person wants to autograph. This person wants him to do this. This person wants him to do that. So he talked about how he was dealing with that anxiety. Kelechi Okafor, very well known, very outspoken, stands on her business. And so sometimes people might misconstrue who she is, that she just talks. No, but I wanted to know, we know the voice, but do we know the person behind that voice? And so the idea, as when we got through the conversation, was that in her childhood, she hadn't been protected. And so whenever she sees injustice in the world, she speaks up to protect others. And that's what we were able to find through that. That was my hook, and that was the value that I was able to give to the audience, for them to understand the context of why she speaks. And then finally, we had Shola Emma. I found that she had a £1,000 drug habit, £1,000 a day drug habit. And I was like, what? That was my hook. I was hooked. I was pulled. I wanted to know, how did you get to that place? She unraveled that even though she was successful worldwide, it was hard for her, because all of a sudden now people had an opinion on her body. People had an opinion on how she looks. And she talked about the struggles of being so famous, but then people are just criticizing your body, and how it was important for you to be rested in yourself, in who you are, be ensuring, rooted in who you are, regardless if the fame comes or not. That was the value we gave to the audience, okay? So it's about finding your hook, assessing what is it and how can it give value to the audience, okay? And it's important it's your hook, because there's different people who are going to want different hooks. For example, I don't know if anybody remembered, anyone knows Zizi Mills? Okay, she did an interview with the infamous Pastor Tope from SPAC Nation. Everybody else's hook was, get this guy to admit that he is defrauding so many young people out of money, get him to admit on her show. And she was like, I see that's the hook that everybody else wants. But my personal hook is, I want to understand a little bit more about the person behind the allegations. Because maybe even in him talking, it can reveal a little bit more, okay? That was her personal hook. So it's important that that hook is yours, because all of us are different here. So the more unique hooks you can find, the more nuanced conversations you're putting out there, okay?